There was a time when Marvel meant there was something to be marveled at when I watched the movie. I felt a sense of marvel. These days, however, I feel a sense of mediocrity, a sense of blasé, more like normal studios, mediocre studios, you've seen it before studios, nothing to write home about studios. Yeah, so either change it to normal studios, average studios, or Marvel business. So I'm going to once and for all go through every single Marvel movie and TV show that I believe fits into the overall arching story. I'm going to speak about my experience when I watched it, and then in retrospect how I feel about it. Because there's a degree of nostalgia. I have to take in consideration my nostalgia. For example, when I first saw Superman, the first Superman, I was 6 years old with Christopher Reeve, and to this day it's my favorite movie ever made. But I have to recognize that it's the 6-year-old in me that's talking, so I have to be able to distance myself from the love that I have for it. So once and for all, I'm going to review the whole thing. I'm not going to include crap like Agent Carter or Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because they're not. They were made before Marvel kind of really started its universe, and I'm also not going to include the Daredevil TV show. I'm not going to include stuff like Werewolf by Night or Guardians Holiday Special or What If, because I don't really think they have any kind of importance to the overall story. Okay, so Iron Man. When this came out, there was a movie that I was much more excited about seeing. I forget what it was. It might have been Revenge of the Sith. I forget, but this sort of eclipsed it. And, I liked it very much. It's probably still one of the best of all of the Marvel movies. The villain sucks, in terms of his robot outfit. At the climax was not climactic, but other than that, it was amazing. Another amazing element to that movie was at the very end when he says, "I am Iron Man," to the whole world, because that made it different than every other superhero movie we had ever seen, where a dude has a secret identity. Also, the Iron Man suit was something we had never seen before, and it worked really well visually. There's certain comic book characters that just don't work in live action, they just look silly. Whereas this looked amazing. Also, it had an arc that we had not seen too many times as of yet, which was Tony Stark starting off as a jerk and then learning how to be a good person. So it was like a story of redemption. And if I'm not mistaken, it had a post-credit scene where Nick Fury shows up, which was also, a new, really cool thing at the time. Yeah, and it really started the whole idea that this might be an ongoing story and that they might be bringing in more characters. Then came the Hulk, and basically this is how I always remembered it, and I remembered it right after I watched it. Like my opinion of it hasn't changed even a tad. So the first third is him sulking. The second third is the romance between him and the daughter of that horrible Aerosmith guy. That stupid romance, that's like a whole third of the movie. It's a whole middle chunk of it, and it's just so goddamn boring. And then they got the fight at the end, and that's it. It's just like a thoroughly bad movie. And then there was the post-credit scene where Robert Downey Jr. shows up and says, "Hey, we're doing an Avengers initiative. You want to join up or something?" Something like that. But not much to say or think about this movie. And I'm not really researching the history, but I think also there was maybe a second post-credit scene with Thor's hammer being found. I think this was the movie that had that. Oh no, I checked. It's the end of Iron Man 2. Iron Man 2 was good, not great. It was cool to see a new villain, Whiplash, being played by Mickey Rourke. That was just cool. Even if he wasn't the coolest, it didn't matter. And then we see Black Widow, and we're starting to see things take shape. We're seeing Nick Fury showing up. We're seeing War Machine show up. So we're seeing stuff. We're seeing the universe beginning to take shape. And let's not forget that Robert Downey Jr. and Iron Man are two of the coolest characters, period. So even if it was the worst movie, you're still getting Robert Downey Jr. and Iron Man, so you're pretty damn happy. And you're getting to see Nick Fury and Black Widow for the first time. So, and we're seeing new evolutions of the Iron Man suit, which is almost like a story in and of itself, which is a good story. Okay, then Thor. Firstly, Kenneth Branagh is a good director. He's thoughtful. It's a slow movie, but it's serious. So you can take it seriously. It's certainly not Taika Waititi style crap. So it's trying and it's succeeding to tell a sort of mythical origin story, and it's succeeded. I mean, in terms of world building, it did a great job because it showed us, the land where where does he live? It's called we got to see Asgard, and of course Loki, who's like one of the fan favorites of all time. Just to show you like the quality of these characters, the quality of these actors. And I said I'm going to speak in terms of nostalgia, in terms of in retrospect, but also in terms of what I would later find out. The actors in the newer stuff, the actors are not as good. They're not as memorable. And neither are their characters. I mean, if you look at anything in Phase 4, you can't say you would rather have a Shang Chi movie than a Loki movie. Right, and even though it might be slow, it's grounded and it's telling a complete story, as opposed to the stuff in Phase 4 where they're just so worried about losing your attention that they're just going crazy. They're doing 50 things every 10 seconds. Okay, and the end credits scene for Thor shows what's his name? Nick Fury come up to that old guy, Skarsgård, Dr. Eric Selvig, and he's like, hey, we could harness that power. I'm not sure what power he's talking about, and you see Loki's manipulating him. And that is going to be coming up later, of course. Loki's going to be manipulating Eric Selvig in the Avengers movie. So, they're laying, they're planting the seeds for something. And that's something that they're not doing in Phase 4. I haven't seen any seeds being laid except for like two appearances by Kang. Captain America, I hate war movies, and Captain America is a very hard sell as a character. So it's amazing. It's a marvel that they made Captain America a character that you like. In fact, and then they made him, in fact, one of the best characters. It was really cool to see him like a scrawny when they digitally made him tiny and they made him bigger. I'd never seen anything like that, and it looked realistic. The Red Skull looked really cool. And I always go back to like, the costume has to look amazing. When you get the costume wrong and it looks cheesy, you've screwed up. And so many superhero movies do that. They make that mistake. And one of the best things about Marvel is the Disney Marvel is that they always get the costumes awesome. Because without that, you got to look at some goofball in a silly, Spider-Man suit. It doesn't work. But at the time, it didn't really. It was like, it's a fun movie. I didn't really care. I think I watched it once, and it was sort of boring. But I mean, what do you expect out of a Captain America movie? But again, it's building the universe, so you're excited, right? You got Thor, you got Iron Man, and now you have Captain America, and now you've got an end credit scene where you see that Captain America is going to be joining them because Nick Fury, wakes him up out of the ice. So we're going towards something. Momentum is building. We are seeing linkage between these movies that suggest to us that something bigger is afoot. Momentum and anticipation is growing, and those are key factors to this whole franchise, this whole universe. These are key elements that were sorrowfully squandered in Phase 4. So after 5 movies, and I believe each of them introducing one of the main characters, I mean technically Iron Man 2, well, that introduced Black Widow, and we got Hawkeye appear, I think, at least in the Thor movie, if not in another one. Now we get to see something we've never seen before, up till now. Something very new in the comic book movie world, which is the uniting 4 characters where nobody's really the star, and we get to see action scenes with them all working together. Crazy action scenes you've never seen before. And in retrospect, it's still a good movie. Like, even though now we see it all the time. Although we don't even see it all the time, do we? Right? Like, we don't see that many characters together very often in the new Marvel crap. Usually it's people on their own, like Moon Knight and all that crap. The Marvels, it's just 3 characters. So, I mean, you never had 6 characters come together like this. Amazing villain, amazing interactions. We get to see Thor, Iron Man, and who's the third guy? And Captain America fighting each other, like in an initial scene. We also had never seen that before, like 3 good guys all fighting each other for a good minute or so. Nowadays, it just gets tired. It's like, as soon as, like, for example, in the Black Widow movie, as soon as they meet each other, she meets her sister, they have to fight. It's like, no, there doesn't always have to be a fight to introduce every character. But again, even though it's not just good because it was the first time we'd seen it. It's good because it's good. What I mean by that is, you can probably, off the top of your head, think of like 20 scenes from that movie that were memorable, but because you remember them. Whereas there's other movies, some of the later movies, you can't even remember one scene that was memorable. We got to see the helicarrier. Apparently that's disappeared. But we got to see that, and we got to see the Hulk go nuts on the helicarrier. And then to after they've now finished Phase 1, at the very end they show you that more is to come by showing Thanos smiling about how, you'd be courting madness to mess with the Avengers. So not only did they build and complete a larger story than each of the 5 individual movies, they also showed that those 5 movies were part of an even larger story, which would be Thanos. So then, I guess Iron Man 3 begins Phase 2. Iron Man 3 was really good. We got to see him make 1 million suits. So we got to see like all the unbelievable potential of this technology that Tony Stark has created. I don't really remember much of it. It was good, So that's about it. Oh, and the end credits is him talking to Mark Ruffalo as though he's a psychiatrist. So we're already well underway in terms of the larger universe now. We're now watching the movies just to see how they fit into the larger story. Then we get the Thor: The Dark World comes next. I thought it was going to be the Winter Soldier. Okay, this movie really sucked. I said it was the most boring villain you've ever seen in your life. Although at the same time, you get your Loki, you get your Thor. But it just brings to mind that it's not that all these movies were perfect in Phase 1 and 2 and 3. That's not why Phase 4 sucks. That's not why Phase 4 destroyed all the faith. Because this movie sucked. It was a terrible movie. Oh, and the interesting thing about this one is the ether, the red stone, the whatever stone that is, which is then given to the collector at the end, in the end credits. Right, I had to look it up. The reality stone. Okay, Winter Soldier, I hated it. I hate war movies. I hate that kind of combat crap. So I just hated the movie. Don't really have much to say about it. I guess the Winter Soldier was a cool character, but no, awful movie in my opinion. But you know what? You watch it anyways because you're gonna see how it ties in when you see the end credits, where it shows the dude with one eye, a monocle, and he's got the two Maximoff twins, and he's got Loki's scepter. And then I think the next movie was Guardians of the Galaxy, which I also hated. I felt like I can't take any of these characters seriously because it's all comic relief. And it feels like watching a music video because there's just music nonstop. And I'm never worried about anybody dying because it's all ridiculous. You got like a little raccoon running around with a gun. The whole thing is just so over the top, I can't take it seriously. Oh, and the end credit scene has Howard the Duck, and it has the Collector, which links this movie to Thor in the Dark World. See, that's the important part. These movies are linking themselves to each other. And for some reason, Phase 4 decided to stop doing that. Okay, then Avengers Age of Ultron. Okay, you know what? Let's just get to like the cool stuff. We get to see Ultron being born, which is just a really well done scene. Very memorable. We get to see the Hulkbuster outfit. We get to see the Vision being created, which was amazing. Probably one of the highlights of the movie. We get to see the Maximoff twins. So essentially now we're not just watching 6 main characters fighting in the climactic scene. We're watching 8 of them. So, it's everything you want. Even though, it wasn't the best of the ensemble movies. It was still great. And, hey, I'm on board. I'm totally happy. I probably watched it 3 times at least. Followed by the end credits scene of Thanos saying, "Fine, I'll do it myself." Which of course makes no sense, but doesn't matter. Again, you're linking the shit together. We're getting the idea that something's coming. So keep watching our movies. We're bringing more characters together for a big battle that's coming. It might even be like an Infinity War. Okay, Ant-Man kind of sucked. Today, in 2023, if it came out, it wouldn't make money. Again, all these movies were riding on the hype, anticipation, momentum, and hype, which was so crucial to the success of this universe. Guess what? Even though this movie's basically a standalone movie, they have him fight the Falcon, and we know the Falcon because I just realized the Falcon appeared. He appeared in Age of Ultron, I think, and he appeared in the Winter Soldier. So it still has a connection to the greater story. Well, and notice how the end credit scene is more important than the movie. So, and I'm looking up these end credit scenes as I produce this little review. And the end credit scene of this movie is Bucky locked up in the basement, and Captain America talks to Falcon, and Falcon says, "I know a guy." And he's speaking about Ant-Man. So there you go, more connectiveness, more connective tissue. So we know these people are all coming together. Okay, then Civil War, which is basically amazing, and it's basically it's an Avengers movie, and it's amazing. We get to see half of the characters fighting half of the characters. Who doesn't want to see that? We get to see the real anger and drama between the two of our favorite characters over Tony Stark's father's death. We get to see Spider-Man show up. What else do we get to see? I don't know. We deal with ethical questions like, should the Avengers be regulated by the government, which is it's a good question. We get a cool villain with Zemo. Oh, and we get further development of some of our newer characters, especially Vision and Wanda. We get more development of Ant-Man. We get to see how he interacts with. We get to see how all the newer characters interact with the characters we already know. Another thing that is sorely missing in Phase 4. Oh, and I think this is the first movie of Phase 3. And Ant-Man was the final movie of Phase 2. Oh, and we're introduced to Black Panther, who is one of my least favorite of the newer characters. However, we see he has a little story arc, and then he makes friends with Bucky at the end, in the end credits scene. And you know, isn't that nice? And there's it's a very deep sort of story between Tony and Captain America. You know, like your best friend killed my father. Like, jeez, come on, dude. And then we get Doctor Strange, where it was not that good. Visually, it was very stunning. I thought it did what I think it was called Tenet, what Tenet by Christopher Nolan was trying to do. Like, the Christopher Nolan Tenet movie, it showed buildings like being, folded onto each other, but then it only happened once. Whereas Doctor Strange goes full out, and you get to see all these like spectacular visuals. So there's that. I thought it was cheap that they were. I felt like they were rehashing the whole Robert Downey Jr. The whole Tony Stark story, where he starts out like a jerk, but then he learns to be a nice guy. I'm not sure that there were any cameos in this one, but when I use that word cameo, it makes me remind myself that the previous appearances, like the Falcon, the Falcon showing up in Ant-Man, that was not a cameo. That was them meeting each other, which was crucial to the development of the overall 20-movie large plot. Those are not cameos. Those are they relate to the overall story. It was a really dumb movie. He learns how to become the best sorcerer who ever lived in like 15 minutes. And the villain, I can't stand that actor, Mads Mikkelsen. He can't talk without. He's got a speech impediment, and he can never show any emotions, and he just talks. I don't know why people like him. He's terrible. The Dormammu thing was cool, and it introduced the Time Stone, which, just like Iron Man's suit, is like a character. So that, again, that's important. This is another puzzle piece that fits into the larger thing, right? Oh, and then the Thor end credits. The end credits scene has Thor, where he's refilling. Doctor Strange is refilling his glass of beer, and he's saying Loki's going to be a problem. So again, we're getting a connection to the main character. Can you tell me who any of the main characters are in Marvel Phase 4? Name one of them. Is it Spider-Man? I don't know. It's not like Spider-Man is showing up in the end credits scene of Shang Chi or Wakanda Forever, or The Marvels, or Love and Thunder, or Guardians 3, or The Eternals. So, I mean, I don't know. Name who's the main character. Name one of the main characters of this new Phase 4. And I might as well say it now. I'm not sure when to say it, but the biggest error that they made after Endgame was that they didn't bring in their new exciting property, which was the X-Men. They brought none of them in. So instead, they said, let's wait 5 years. Let's wait 10 years till we make Fantastic Four. And in the meantime, we'll bring in all the shittiest characters that Marvel's ever had. And we're just going to waste everybody's time for 5 years. We're going to burn all the momentum we've been growing. Right, and that scene, that end credits scene with Thor meeting Doctor Strange, that sets up the Thor, Ragnarok. But again, it's connecting things. Then we get Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I hate these movies. I don't understand why people like them. So it just shows how out of touch I am with the common man. Maybe that's a good thing. I guess I liked it just because I expected it to be. I expected nothing of it because I hated Guardians 1. I thought it was pitiful, hilarious, pathetic how in the first movie it ended with like a dance-off and how all the Guardians held hands at the end because they discovered friendship. I thought it was so cheesy. I don't know why everybody makes fun of things like Bruce Wayne and Superman saying "Save Martha." And everybody makes fun of that. They don't make fun of the Guardians holding hands at the end of Part 1. Whatever. Yeah, I mean, if anything, I like this movie better just because I thought it can't get worse than the first one. There was a really bad scene that was especially bad where there was this guy who says, "Call me Taserface," and then Rocket goes, "Hey, you call yourself Taserface?" He calls himself Taserface, and it's not that funny that he thinks it's that funny, and I get the joke, but like it's overkill. That was one of the most cringy parts of the whole movie. I thought it was kind of cool, the idea of his father, Ego, being the living planet. That was kind of cool. Other than that, I hate the Guardians movies. I looked it up, in the end credits scene for Guardians 2, I guess, suggests that Adam Warlock is coming, so I guess that's cool. You know what? The ending was sweet when, like, Sylvester Stallone, they did fireworks for dead Yondu. I just can't stand those. I can't stand any James Gunn movie because I feel like I'm watching a music video. He just can't stop playing pop music. And I feel like he had a bad influence on other comic book makers because now they feel like they have to put popular music in their movies. So it's just kind of become a disease. It's just gross. Nobody wants to hear like Metallica playing when, Superman is fighting. What if I don't like that song? Spider-Man, Homecoming. Really bad movie. The number one reason is because Spider-Man is like Tony Stark's annoying nephew. He's like a wannabe Tony Stark. He's not his own person. He's just a Klingon. He's just like, I want to be a superhero one day. And it's just so, he's just a little wimp. And I don't know, Michael Keaton's cool. But it's an awful movie. It's just an awful movie. I don't know. I can't think of one scene in that movie that I remember. I looked up the end credits scene, and apparently it's just nothing. It's just Michael Keaton in jail. I don't know. But just remember that these movies are making money because they've earned our goodwill. because they've shown us that they've got a direction they're going in, and we know it's leading towards something. Things are connecting. Thanos is still coming. Right? Like, I'm going to go see the movie, and I don't care if it sucks. Because you know what? Even if it sucks, I relatively like it, because I want to see Spider-Man swinging around, you know. They got the suit works, you know. As long as the suit looks cool, you know, I'll watch Doctor Strange, I'll watch The Dark World. I mean, the only painful movies so far in this story that I've had to watch were Guardians of the Galaxy was the worst one of all of them for me. Was I saying something about Spider-Man Homecoming being awful? Well, Thor Ragnarok was more awful. They turned the whole thing into a comedy. And I can kind of understand using him for comedic, you know, purposes. That's fine. But I could see that they were going too far. And this Taika Waititi freak, I could see him, he was the director, right? He had to have himself as a character in the movie. And that voice of his just kills me. It's like nails. It's like wimpy nails on a chalkboard. Hey, my name is Korg. Hey, how's it going? Oh, hey, that's my friend over there, huh? Hey, oh well, I thought we'd be friends. Hey, you know, I never thought about that. You know, this cutesy little voice, and he thinks he's cute. He thinks everybody thinks he's cute and cuddly. And he thinks he's funny in a cute, cuddly way. And for some reason, he has to talk about orgies. He talks about orgies in this movie, and he mentions orgies in the next movie. So, what is with you, buddy? Are you making a movie is this a kid's movie? Is this like adult themed? You're a freak. However, we're riding on goodwill. We're riding on knowing that we're going somewhere. We're heading towards something. We get to see Hulk versus Thor in an arena, reminiscent of this Hulk world idea that they had in the comics that I've heard about. I haven't read. You know, you get to see more Loki. We love Loki, right? These are characters that we love, that we've come to know. We've seen them in several movies. So we're willing to forgive this movie for having Korg in it. And for having and for having a little too much humor. This was the first movie where I'm like, they're doing the same thing as Guardians of the Galaxy, where like nothing matters and there's never any danger. Right? Guardians was like, it's a comedy, and I'm like, this is a comedy, like nothing matters. This is also the first movie I think I've ever seen where they use the same rock song twice. They use the same song twice. They play the Immigrant song, Led Zeppelin, at the beginning of the movie, and then they play it again at the end. And I'm like, that's so weird. It's almost like if a band put the same song on their album, like once at the beginning and once at the end. And I saw this movie in the theaters with my mother, and towards the end, I just remember towards the end, I'm like, I just want this to be over. It's too loud. There's too much color. There's too much. It's like a critic once said, it's like watching somebody throw up Skittles for like 2 hours. That critic had said that about the movie Speed Racer, but that's how I felt about this, where I was like, this is just like ADD overload. Like, there's just too much going on. It's just, I can't pay attention to all this noise and all of these like visuals, everything. Like, it's just an overload. It's like watching a CGI movie. It's like Uncanny Valley feeling. It's like the complete opposite of the original Thor, where it was like a simple story with simple, real feelings, real characters. This was just like over the top cartoon crap, much like Guardians. And I would say that this was like my first indication that Marvel had gone the wrong way, had made some like really bad decisions. that they were allowing a little too much silliness. But you know what saved this sorry movie? Was after the credits, when you see that Thanos' ship shows up. And you're like, okay, cool, we're going somewhere. The last 2 hours, it's okay because we're going somewhere. I feel like I'm in good hands still. Okay, and this is like the worst one I've seen yet. Black Panther, this was the worst. Oh boy. And you couldn't say it sucks because you'd be racist. But you know what? If anything, I think this movie is racist because they're saying that these black people, they beat on their chest when, you know, and they live in this tribal, primitive society where they live like in mountains and they go hoo 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 when they want to like fight each other. And they even though they're so technically civilized, advanced because of their vibranium, they can decide who's king based on like a duel, essentially. And then it doesn't even make sense because he loses the duel, so he lost. So even if he comes back, it doesn't really matter. And then it's so funny because he has the powers, and then he drinks a serum to get rid of the powers, and then he drinks a serum to get the powers back, and everybody loves this Killmonger guy who just like wants to destroy all the flowers that could make them all powerful, and like, and it's like the Lion King, right? It's the Lion King. And like essentially, you know, they're saying Killmonger was right in a way because Black Panther's father killed his father. So like, okay, so what? So who's the hero then? You all suck. I mean, this was the worst movie. I don't care that it made him. I don't care. I mean, I guess I'm out of touch with what other people think. But you know what? I watched it because I thought, you know what? It's leading towards the big deal, the big Thanos thing, and in the end credits, you see the Winter Soldier. So you see, okay, so there is a connection. There's a connection to the main thing, all right? Pay attention, Phase 4. You should be doing this. Okay, so Avengers Infinity War is the very best of all of them, and it delivers on everything, and I can't really complain about anything at all, so I don't really have anything to say except it's just perfect. Let's just have a moment of silence and reflect on how perfect that was. It was so perfect that for a year afterwards I had dreams about what was going to happen in Endgame. It's just amazing. Okay, Ant-Man and the Wasp. The villain sucked, that ghost character. And Lawrence Fishburne. However, the comedy elements were really actually funny. Like when he was like, he shrunk to like a third of his size, and they called him a little kid. They made fun of him. It's actually a very well done movie. And we're riding on the we're getting into the quantum realm. Like we're seeing connections into what's going to be saving everybody in Endgame. So it fits into the puzzle, into the equation. So give that's a pass. It's a good. I mean, and pass like the pass is the grade. You're good movie. Not great by any stretch, but you know. Okay, and then Captain Marvel. Now, this movie was doomed from the beginning because the main actress who plays Captain Marvel was like just basically going off, shutting off her mouth about how like she hates all the white movie critics who got her the Oscar that catapulted her to wealth and fame. And so she really poisoned like herself. And the movie, again, it was playing all this crap, all this music, which I think Guardians of the Galaxy started this whole trend of like playing music all the time. So we got like Nirvana and I'm Just a Girl by No Doubt. And it was a boring movie. They turned Nick Fury into a wimp who basically lost an eye because a cat scratched his eye out. And I don't know. I watched it once. It sucked. It This is the one movie that milked the hype and anticipation that we all had for the whole franchise. It was sandwiched in perfectly, so everybody had to go see it. Otherwise, nobody would have gone to see it. Endgame, the culmination of everything. I've watched it probably 20 times. The first third is just them dealing with the wake of what Thanos did. The second third is them figuring out the time travel. And the last third... and also doing the time travel. And the final third is the big battle against Thanos. It's just perfect. I wouldn't say anything... If I could. I probably could, but I don't want to say anything bad about it. It's just perfect. I mean, this is one of the few movies that actually lives up to the hype. Since, I mean, the last one that did something this successful was like Return of the Jedi. And you know what? It didn't have to be perfect. It just had to serve up what had been promised for 15 years or however long. Like, okay, plot holes. You only notice plot holes when the movie sucks. If you're loving the movie, you'll forgive any plot hole, because the essence of storytelling is plot holes. Like a real life story is boring because it's real, right? Like reality is boring. I think that some people say Spider-Man Far From Home was the end of Phase 3. But I would say this is the end of Phase 3. And it's a good time to like take a moment to think about, like, okay, well, what have we done here? What has Marvel done? And what should they be doing going forward? It was smart to give this, Phase 1 through 4 some finality in this movie by having, like, Iron Man die. Captain America, half of them are retiring, blah blah blah, or dead. But I'd like to repeat, the main secret of success for the Marvel MCU franchise, and for every franchise, was hype, momentum, anticipation, which are all the same thing, I suppose. It's why everybody went to go see The Force Awakens, right? Hype, anticipation, momentum, and Star Wars, in their case, they squandered it. They used it all up in that first movie. Or you might say they proved they had none. They stopped, put it all to a halt as soon as the second one, The Last Jedi, came out. It was the same with the Transformers, where, they killed all the everything they did. You thought they were building something, and then you realized that in the second movie that, no, we're not building anything. We're just going to remake the same thing over and over again. I have a million videos on here about The Last Jedi because it pissed me off more than anything in the world. But no, the Last Jedi didn't remake, but it rebooted, which is almost the same as remaking, because it's saying nothing that happened in the previous entry mattered, because it's like, it's like a sitcom where, the next episode, everything that happened in the previous episode, it doesn't really matter. You don't need to have watched it in order to enjoy or not enjoy this movie. And I suppose the big error that Marvel made after Endgame was about to make was to become episodic and not serial, right? There was no story anymore. It was just individual stories. aside from this Kang thing, which now seems to be not even happening because of Jonathan Majors. But I don't know whether or not during or after the production of Endgame, like when Marvel got possession of the rights to X-Men. But I would say, okay, after Endgame, you got to bring in X-Men right away. That's how you continue the hype and the anticipation, and you start to build momentum again. You've got all these badass, beloved characters like Wolverine that you could be bringing in. You can bring them in right now. Do it right now. And another example of anticipation and hype not being done correctly would be both the DC universe and the Star Wars universe. In the DC universe, they did it backwards. They started with like having the whole Justice League, and then they worked backwards to individual movies of the characters. So that's like reverse hype. It's like entropy. I think that's the opposite of hype or anticipate. You know, it's like instead of showing all the puzzle pieces coming together, you show the whole puzzle, and then you to destroy the puzzle, and then you show each individual piece. I had an idea on a crude idea on how they could have done the Star Wars sequel trilogy. What they should have done was they should have had a Rey movie. Start with a movie about Rey, right? And then in the post-credit scene, have Princess Leia show up and say, "We're gonna need you because there's a big thing happening." And then you have a whole movie about like Finn, and then at the end of the movie, in the post-credit scene, you get Han Solo showing up, and hey kid, we're gonna need you for a big mission. Just a total copy of what they did with Nick Fury with the end credit scenes with Marvel Phase 1. And then you have a Poe movie, and then you have an end credit scene where Luke shows up and he says, "We're gonna need you for the fucking sequel trilogy." Right? And then you're building anticipation, and now people are like, "Holy smokes. Can't wait for the main event." And also, we have a reason to care about these new characters. And we also have a tie to the original characters. And then you can do the sequel trilogy. And you know what? You could be writing the sequel trilogy while you're making the individual standalone Rey, Poe, and Finn movies. Fans love anticipation, so they love thinking and wondering, what's going to happen. Oh my God, what's going to happen when Luke and Leia and Han all get together? So you could wait that out. You could slowly give doses of this crack to the fans over 10 years and have every movie leading up to the Star Wars sequel trilogy. You could have every one of those movies making a killing. Okay, so Far From Home was terrible. I remember almost nothing of it. The one thing I remember is that the fat little guy, his fat little friend, ends up going out with the hottest chick in the whole school, Betty Brant. And I'm like, that would never happen in real life. Like, what are you doing? Are you trying to, like... But that's a different subject. That's just, I guess, trying to say that I don't even, like, everybody's, I guess if you're that fat nerd, you got a chance. Like, I'm not sure what universe this high school exists in, but every high school I've ever heard of, hot blonde Betty Brant, she's going to be going out, she's going to be looking for the football player or someone, or the guy that's in a rock band. But I still had hope. I'm still going to use I still had momentum. There still was anticipation. I'm going to be using those words a lot. Because, we're going to see what's going to happen. We got Spider-Man, he's going to keep going, and we hear there's a Doctor Strange movie coming, blah, blah, blah. And at this point, I'm not even going to mention the after credit scenes, because they never really introduce anything or like make any connections. There's no connective tissue anymore going forward. Okay, now I'm not sure whether this Black Widow came out before or after Loki. I think they came out around the same time. So this was a terrible movie. She doesn't have superpower, but she can fall off out of a skyscraper and fight while she's falling. They're falling from the sky and they're fighting while they're falling. She's got a pheromone thing where like she can't attack the bad guy because of pheromones. And I'm thinking, well, why not plug your nose? But instead she decides to break her nose or her forehead. I mean, that was just weird. And it's like the Black Widows are all just a harem for this pervert this old pervert. He's got all these women brainwashed. And also, I mean, Black Widow is an ensemble character. She doesn't really work well on her own. Any more than Wolverine, frankly, doesn't really work on his own. And I think this was the first of the Marvel movies where as soon as she met her sister, I'm like, oh, watch, they're going to fight before they talk. And of course, they beat the crap out of each other because... And it's getting a little bit old that, like, every introduction of every two characters, it means that they have to fight at first. I mean, and it's really kind of like an origin story, and... I don't think anybody wanted to know the origin story of Black Widow. Because she kind of works better as... She's a spy, right? So she works better as a sort of mysterious person whose past you don't really know about. But the one thing they did in this movie, I think it was in the end credits, which could have maintained and kept the anticipation going, was they brought in Julia Louis-Dreyfus as some like mastermind, you know, who's like in charge of everything and manipulator. So in retrospect, having watched Secret Invasion, why didn't she show up in Secret Invasion? Wouldn't she have been perfect in that? Aren't you supposed to be building her as some big bad? But no. So, hence the problem. Just have her make a cameo in Secret Invasion and several of the other movies. It feels as though her character, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, was just like a thread that they decided to quit. Like many of these things. And we have this new character, Florence Pugh, what's her name, Yelena, the new Black Widow, right? The little sister. So she should be showing up in at least 1/3 of all of the Phase 4 content, right? Or a quarter of all the content. In end credit scenes, blah, blah, blah. Because she's supposed to be a new main character, right? Well, wrong. So Loki was a guaranteed success because Loki's one of everybody's favorite characters. And it showed us Kang, so then okay, great, we've got our new Thanos. Great. So now Kang's going to be making end credit appearances and stuff. No, he's not. We're not going to see him again until, you know, a few years later in Ant-Man and Quantumania. So, but it was an excellent show. Very well done. But again, to create cohesiveness and to maintain momentum, just give us one or two characters that are going to be having their own shows or movies. Put them in there somewhere. I don't even care if it's for 10 seconds. It could be Doctor Strange. It could be anybody. Who cares? It could be the Guardians. It could be anybody. Spider-Man. It could be Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and you could find out that she knows about the TVA, and maybe she's one of their underlings, or or whatever, or she is, just show that she knows about the TVA, so you realize that she's very inside on everything. I'm starting to think that I'm going to be talking only about how they should have had this character or that character show up on this show or this movie. WandaVision I thought was perfect. I'd give it a 10 out of 10. I don't know why everybody else didn't like it, but you know what? I'm out of touch with what the common man thinks. So, it was a great show, and Vision is awesome. Wanda's awesome. It was I'd say it was perfect for what it was. One of the mistakes they made was having the new Quicksilver be just a fake. It should have been the new Quicksilver. That would have been exciting. He's a character we all want, who never should have died, and they easily could have done. They were originally apparently going to have some Doctor Strange in this movie, but again, I don't know. Have Loki show up in one scene, okay? That's all. That's all we're asking for, just so that we know that it's all part of a bigger whole. And they introduced us to a new character who I think is named Monica Rambeau, right? But we're not going to get to see her again until the Marvels, I think, unless I'm mistaken. I'm a lot less. I fall asleep during every show and movie, increasingly as we go after this, because it gets worse and worse. But okay, Monica Rambeau. Okay, cool. Let's have her show up in cameo. Let's have her show up in more things, because she's gonna be a character, right? Wrong. Monica Rambeau does not have any appearance in Shang Chi, nor does Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character, nor does anybody. Spider-Man, nobody. So we get Wong, Doctor Strange's friend, and we get Tim Roth's Abomination, but that's about it in terms of tie-ins, I think. Aside from that, I thought it was a really good movie. I thought it was a lot of fun. Beautiful. I felt like I was in a Disney World on a Disney ride, because of just the magic and the dragons flying around, and the beautiful paradise, shot. It was just a really visually amazing. I thought it was really good, actually. It's just a shame that they had to make it so self-contained. Okay, they did have a cameo at the end where a few of them call him in and they say, these 10 rings are who is it? It's like Wong and let me look this up. Just give me a second. Okay, so the end credits has Captain Marvel and Bruce Banner and Wong talking about the rings and saying welcome to the club. So this movie actually did everything right. If all the movies and TV shows had done what this movie did, it would have been okay. We would not be in the situation we're in right now. And again, none of these movies or TV shows have to be good. They just have to be connecting to each other and giving us the anticipation that something bigger is coming that will include all of these characters. Falcon and Winter Soldier I was not looking forward to, because I don't like either of the characters. And I'm not a big fan of the whole war thing. I hated Winter Soldier. So, but I enjoyed it. I thought it brought in the new character, the new Captain America guy who's slightly evil. And what is his name? Agent something. And we got Julia Louis-Dreyfus. So we got a connection now, because we saw her once before in the Black Widow movie. Good. We got to see Baron Zemo. Good. He should have showed up, and he should be showing up in other things occasionally. But otherwise, pretty good. And at the time, my excitement and anticipation for Marvel and my faith in Marvel was very strong still. Eternals, I thought, was pretty good, for considering that it's a movie introducing 10 characters who I've never heard of and have no interest in. I thought it was pretty good. And the idea that the Earth has a thing inside it, like a big creature, an important creature, a celestial or something. And but it should have brought other characters like the Hulk, everybody I've listed, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, the Black Widow's sister, every previous thing. You just have a couple things, just a couple characters. Shang Chi, something. Just, and I think the end credits scene is where you find out that Kit Harington, Jon Snow, has a special black blade, so he's going to be a big deal. That's great and everything, but you just introduced a lot of characters that I've never met. And it's like when you go to a party, it's tiring meeting that many people in like 1 hour. So they should have just given us these 10 people and not had... And they needed to give us an anchor of like some character that we know already. If only for like a minute. And maybe they did, but I don't remember. But otherwise, I thought it was a pretty good movie considering how uninterested I was in it. And considering what a task it was to introduce 10 characters that I've never seen. Now, Hawkeye, I really did not want to watch. I did not want to like. But, you know what? They pleased me because they brought in the Kingpin. And they brought in Echo. These are fan favorites. And it was also well done. It was also a good show. And we got to know Kate Bishop, who should now be showing up in cameos in other future movies, but she has not shown up in even one of them. They should have had, maybe they did, I don't remember, Julia Louis-Dreyfus. They had Yelena. That was a good idea. Too bad they didn't do that in the previous or future ones. They had Yelena. That's good. Nothing about Kang, really, or a multiverse yet in this. Yeah, still kind of has a standalone feel to it. Yeah, you know what? It would have been perfect to have Spider-Man make a cameo, because this is his city, and Kingpin exists in Spider-Man's world. It would have been perfect. There was no excuse to not have Spider-Man in this. Maybe it's because it was made during the pandemic. But you know what? I don't care. They could have had him like talk through a cell phone and then just said there's a reason, like he's calling on the phone. What a missed opportunity that was. And we haven't seen Spider-Man since Far From Home. He hasn't shown up in anything. So we're starting to drift off from cohesiveness, big picture, larger story that we're trying to build here. And I mean, I don't know if phase 1 took this long, but this phase already, it feels like it's taking forever. Okay, Moon Knight, wonderful show, loved it. But again, let's just list all the missed opportunities of characters that could have been connected to this. Okay, well, I'll just list every previous entry. Spider-Man, the Eternals, even Black Panther, Yelena, Hawkeye, or little female Hawkeye, Shang Chi, Doctor Strange. I mean, this show was just like practically standalone. It has no connection to anything at all that's going on in this Marvel phase. If you have a sense that like my energy level has gone down since the beginning of this video, yeah, I think it reflects how my energy level has gone during my entire experience of the MCU. No Way Home was perfect. Everybody knows that. Could it have had more cameos or something? Well, it shouldn't have ended with the end credit scene being a preview for Doctor Strange, which I think that's what it was. You know what? This was the kind of movie where they should have had... The reason they should have had cameos by other characters was because those other characters needed that. They need all the help they can get, whether it be Shang-Chi or one of those. Those are all lesser characters that nobody really likes. So it would be nice. This could be a crutch for them to like help them with their movies. So they blew it in that regard. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, I thought it was awesome. It didn't spend enough time in the multiverse. We only saw like 3 different universes. That was my only issue really. Otherwise, it was a great movie. And as I said before, it should have had cameos from some of the new characters we've seen already, because they need to be connecting this shit together, and they're not. I mean, certainly Ant-Man should have shown up, since he's going to be doing a little bit of multiversal hijinks. It would have been perfect for Loki to show up, again, just for 10 seconds, on a cell phone call, a video phone call. Just have him say, "Hey, Doctor Strange, you're in the multiverse. Well, I'm in the TVA. Okay, talk to you later. Bye." Now, I don't know why so many people didn't like this movie, but my best guess would be because of the things I've been saying, that the overall cohesiveness, connecting these movies together, is getting lost, and people are getting tired because of that. They don't know where they're going, right? We don't know where we're going. We don't know where the multiverse is headed, and we weren't told about the multiverse during Shang Chi. I don't think that word was mentioned once. I mean, how many of these shows could have mentioned the multiverse? Like, the Eternals certainly could have, right? Thor: Love and Thunder, I probably hate this the most out of every Marvel movie. The movie that I hate the second most is Thor Ragnarok, because it turns it all into a joke. And I'm amazed that anybody who liked Ragnarok would not like this movie, because Thor Ragnarok showed you exactly what you can expect from this awful director, who takes nothing seriously and wants to put in like his favorite rock song, like Guns N' Roses or the Immigrants song, and he wants to play it like twice. They turn the gods into idiots. So Zeus is just a fat Greek. It doesn't make. It's just awful movie. So silly. And Korg, God, Taika Waititi, really, you're not cute. You're not. Nobody wants to hear your voice. Nobody thinks you're charming. It should have been called Korg. Korg, the Korg movie. Oh, and the after credit scene introduces us to Hercules, who nobody's ever heard of in terms of the Marvel universe. Why didn't you bring in somebody that we know, or that you've already introduced us to? Why don't you bring in Julia Louis-Dreyfus, or bring in Shang Chi, or the after credit? But no, we're showing this new character that we're probably never going to see again, because he sounds like he sucks. Remember the good old Marvel days when, like, the end credit scene would connect one movie to another? Wakanda Forever. I'm going to try to get through this without barfing. It was horrible. I had to stop every 20 minutes because it was so boring, just to get through it. I know Namor is a major character, but I don't particularly like him. I don't know anything about him. I don't know. It's just a boring movie. I don't even. It's just like about them fighting with the Aqua people, and that's about it, right? And like, I don't know. They made a big deal about Chadwick Boseman, dedicating the movie to him and talking about him and honoring him, having his funeral. In the end credit scenes, apparently it shows his son. But you know what? Like, when I die, I'll be happy if I just have a little funeral. You don't need to make a whole movie about me that's supposed to be a comic book movie, and make it all about me being dead. Quantumania, I thought was amazing. I loved it. I can't believe it didn't do well. In any other time period, like, if it came out 5 years ago, it would have been a huge, like, $1 billion maker. It's just unfortunate that I think that at this point it had sunk in with a lot of people that Marvel didn't really know where they were going anymore because they had not connected any of the movies together anymore. So people were like, okay, well, you know. I don't know, because I can't think of any reason why people didn't like this movie. Yeah, sure, there were jokes, but I mean, it's nowhere near as bad as Ragnarok. Oh, and the end credits scene with all the Kangs, that was incredible. This is probably one of my top 10 favorite Marvel movies. Guardians 3, well, I had no expectations because I hated Guardians 1. And I went into Guardians 2 with no expectations, so I was like, okay, it's not that bad. And so I watched this, so I'm like, okay, I guess it's not that bad. You know, there's some competence that James Gunn has. But again, I felt like I was watching a music video, and it's not very serious. Everything's silly. They bring in this guy, Adam Warlock, who's apparently a major character in Marvel, but I'd never heard of him, so they didn't really give him much to do. It doesn't connect to whatever else is going on. I don't think they mentioned the multiverse once, or Kang. Yeah, it's very much a self-contained movie, so you don't need to bother watching it if you're interested in like the larger story, which I don't think exists, which I think is why these movies aren't doing well anymore. Let's end this on a low note. The Marvels. Hey, wait, I didn't do Secret Invasion. Did I forget to do that one? Okay, Secret Invasion sucked. Okay, Did I do Secret Invasion? No, I didn't. Okay, well, Secret Invasion was awful. Actually, I don't want to pick on the runt of the litter, so I'm not going to even mention Secret Invasion. Forget it. Even I'm not that mean. Okay, the Marvels, I am that mean. And, I don't know, I watched 2/3 of it and then I had to stop because it just sucked that much. It doesn't know what it's doing. Nobody cares about these characters. We already know that Nick Fury basically lets the cat just kicks his ass all the time. I don't know. I don't care. Like, who cares? Is there an end credit scene? Is there an end? I'm gonna look that up. Oh, apparently the end credit scene is Fraser Crane, Beast. Too little, too late to bring in the X-Men. Sorry, guys. You know, you had how many years has it been since Endgame, right? How much time have you had to bring in the X-Men, and now you're gonna bring them in? Well, I don't know. You burned all of the good faith that we had, right? You're gonna have to rebuild that now. Well, you should have been riding the good faith and the hype and the momentum that you had from Endgame. You were at a high point, but you decided to go right down to the bottom, and now you got to start it all over again because you were jerking off when you should have been making quality entertainment. You were jerking off. Did I do She-Hulk? I must have. Oh god, it's all just an ugly blur. Yeah, I don't know what to say. It's depressing. But hey, guys, the Marvel Studios. It's not a Marvel anymore. It's normal. It's Agenda Studios. Everybody's got to be. You know what I'm gonna say. Well, look at this. Female guy with an eye patch who got his eye scratched out by a cat. Oh, hey, remember this logo? Oh, yeah, it used to mean something. Now it means nothing. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I would say there's one story that's worthwhile in this, which is the story of Rocket Raccoon and how sad it was and how cruel somebody was to him, and he was just an innocent little animal. And aside from that, the whole movie is just crap. It's just crap. It's garbage. It should have just been the Rocket Raccoon 30-minute movie. It's just more of the wacky hijinks that James Gunn and his fans seem to think are cute. And I'm not a fan of any of the Guardians movies, but I would say this is the most inferior of the three. Can you tell I'm just trying to get through this crap? I don't think I did She-Hulk, so I'll do She-Hulk really quickly. She-Hulk was about a girl who can't find a date, and then finally she does find a date, and it turns out to be Daredevil, so it's like, hey, it all worked out, because Daredevil's cooler than all those guys, because he's Daredevil. And then it just all goes to nonsense, and she crawls out of the screen, and she just says, hey, Kevin Feige, what's going on? Why are you screwing everything up? And Kevin Feige's just a robot, and he don't know. And that's about it, and then it ends. And then just everybody shows up. Hulk has a son. It's just like, instead of going slow the way they did in Phase 1, now they're just speeding through. They're doing 5 phases per minute. I mean, this movie, this show, it's like it was made by ADD. By and for ADD people. And the irony is that she does yoga, like, in it. And it's like, my God, this is the opposite of yoga. And I had heard good things about She-Hulk from a lot of comic book aficionados who I know. But I don't ever want to... You'll like her. No, I don't ever want to see her again, actually. And in terms of hot, like a hot chick, like, you know, Captain America's a hot guy for girls. Black Widow was hot. Well, guys aren't generally attracted to girls that are 2 feet taller than them and muscular. So you've just lost that demographic. Loki season 2 was fun, but it was nothing compared to the first season. I really felt a sense of it was aimless. And, you know, it was sad to see Kang the Conqueror, one of his, what do they call them? One of his versions? One of his, what do they call them? Variants? And just to see him kind of just be a loser. And it was also sad, because I was really excited to see the Kang Dynasty and all of that. So, you know, I don't know what to say. I liked it because I wanted to like it, because how can you not like Loki? I guess that's all I could say. And then Echo came out, which everybody wanted. And I'll just tell you, like, a friend of mine who's a huge Daredevil fan who told me that, you know, Ninja Turtles was... he's such a nerd that he told me Ninja Turtles was based on Daredevil, because... So Daredevil has the hand, and Ninja Turtles have the foot. And so he was telling me, oh, Echo is really cool, because, you know, how Daredevil is blind, whereas Echo is deaf. And so they're, like, kind of like opposites. And I'm like, that sounds like a really cool character. So I thought this might be cool. But the first thing I'm going to say is, the character who plays Echo is not hot. And I'm sorry, you gotta be hot. What do you think you're starring in? I mean, if this girl walked up to me in a bar and said, hey, you wanna get jiggy with it? I would say no. And I understand this is the first deaf amputee that Marvel's ever hired, so great. Good job, guys. Nobody cares. I mean, it's not that nobody cares about amputees or deaf people, but nobody cares that you put one in a movie. Sorry, Disney, that doesn't make you good people. It was cool to see this 30-second Daredevil scene, which was in the trailer, but turned out to be a ripoff. It was cool to see the Kingpin. That's about it. I don't know, man. It was really lame. And then she uses the power of one, the power of many. At the end, she taps into her native roots. And it's really just a show about how natives are people too, which is, I would be so insulted if I was a native, and I've heard apparently a lot of natives find it insulting. And then Deadpool and Wolverine came out, and that was the worst one of all, because it was white men who are good looking and muscular, and they're fighting, and they make humor, and they have callbacks to like other characters, and and they bring in the TVA, which is really bad because it connects to something, so that was terrible. And I mean, like, while I was watching Deadpool and Wolverine, I was just screaming at the screen. I was screaming, where the hell's Shang Chi? That's the one that's who I really want to see. Where's Namor? Where's female Black Panther? Come on, what is this crap? I want to see the Eternals back. Where? Come on, guys. What about where's Moon Knight? Are you honestly telling me She-Hulk is not going to show up? And we certainly have to see Echo. If you don't put her in, I mean, give me a break. You're going to lose your whole audience. And like, what about like the little Kate Bishop, the young Hawkeye? And what about the new Black Widow? You know, the blonde girl who's replacing Scarlett Johansson? Why isn't she in this movie? I mean, I can't. This movie sucks. And surely you cannot omit Captain Marvel from this. I mean, she's the one we all want to see, really. Let's be honest. And come on. I can't even count. How many black people were in this movie? Wesley Snipes does not count because he's an established black person. And the gay innuendos are just frankly insulting. Because, you know. So, you know, I don't really know what Kevin Feige was thinking when he greenlit this movie. But I'll give you a prediction. I predict this movie is going to bomb more than She-Hulk and more than you know, Shang Chi, and more than Black Widow, all bombed, all put together. Multiply it and put a minus sign. That's how bad this movie is going to do. But don't worry, there's a ray of sunshine on the horizon. And it is called Agatha All Along. Now look, we're sick of seeing buff men, women in their prime, hot chicks. We don't like that crap. We need a change. So let's have 5 middle-aged women who basically have a slumber party and do karaoke. That's what we need. Middle-aged women who are out of shape doing karaoke and having slumber parties episode after episode. And let's not ruin it by having something like, I don't know, Robert Downey Jr., who's like really popular. Don't have him show up as like, say, Doctor Doom, because he's too well known and too loved. Let's just stick with, like, you know, Agatha, Shang Chi, Moon Knight, Echo. Those should be the new Avengers. And no matter what, don't ever bring in the X-Men. Okay? I'm glad you waited 4 years to bring them in. I hope it's 40 years. If you support gays, click like. If you respect blacks, comment. If you think women are people too, click the notification bell. And if you care about sick children, subscribe.